There comes a moment in life when you realize that the noise around you has nothing to do with your destiny. People will talk, they will doubt, they will measure you by who you used to be, not by who you are becoming. And yet, the most powerful transformation always happens in silence, within the depths of your own focus. When you make the brave decision to turn inward, to nourish your own spirit, to build your own strength, and to grow in your own truth, something incredible happens. You begin to rise. Not with drama, not with applause, not with validation, but with a strength so grounded that the world cannot ignore it. Your transformation will not happen overnight. It will be slow, steady, beautiful, and deeply personal. It will require discipline on days you're tired, faith on days you're scared, and courage on days you feel alone. But every small action, every boundary you set, every step you take toward your better self becomes a declaration that you are no longer living for applause. You are living for your own soul. Focus on yourself because your journey is not to match anyone else's timeline. You are allowed to reinvent yourself as many times as necessary. You are allowed to choose peace over chaos, healing over anger, growth over comfort. And you are allowed, fully allowed, to let your transformation speak louder than your explanations. One day, quietly and unexpectedly, you will rise into the version of yourself you once prayed for. And in that moment, those who doubted you will fall silent, not because you proved them wrong, but because you proved yourself right. Focus on yourself, honor your path, grow with intention, move with purpose, and let the world be shocked by the quiet, powerful, unstoppable truth of who you become. When you focus on yourself, you shift your energy from trying to please the world to nurturing the deepest parts of your spirit. You stop chasing opinions and start chasing growth. You begin to recognize that every seed of greatness within you needs silence, faith, and patience to flourish. This is where your strength begins, not in being seen, but in becoming aligned with who you truly are. You must learn to protect your peace like it is the foundation of your future, because it is. The more you focus on yourself, the more you understand that peace is not something you find, it is something you create through boundaries, self-respect, and choosing what supports your growth. The moment you stop letting people drain your energy, your life begins to rise. Your journey requires you to outgrow the version of yourself that kept shrinking to keep others comfortable. When you focus on yourself, you start walking with a new level of honesty. You stop betraying your own dreams. You stop saying yes when you want to say no. You stop apologizing for wanting more, and suddenly your life begins to expand in ways you didn't expect. When you focus on yourself, you shift your energy from trying to please the world to nurturing the deepest parts of your spirit. You stop chasing opinions and start chasing growth. You begin to recognize that every seed of greatness within you needs silence, faith, patience to flourish. This is where your strength begins, not in being seen, but in becoming aligned with who you truly are. You must learn to protect your peace like it is the foundation of your future, because it is. The more you focus on yourself, the more you understand that peace is not something you find, it is something you create through boundaries, self-respect, and choosing what supports your growth. The moment you stop letting people drain your energy, your life begins to rise. Your journey requires you to outgrow the version of yourself that kept shrinking to keep others comfortable. When you focus on yourself, how you start walking with a new level of honesty. You stop betraying your own dreams. You stop saying yes when you want to say no. You stop apologizing for wanting more, and suddenly your life begins to expand in ways you didn't expect. You become powerful when you stop arguing with the limitations others put on you. When you focus inward, you understand that belief doesn't come from being praised, it comes from honoring your own potential. It comes from showing up for yourself. It comes from proving step by step that you are capable of building a life that once felt out of reach. Your confidence becomes unshakable because it comes from within. Growth often begins the moment you realize that not everyone is meant to understand your path. And that is okay. Focusing on yourself means accepting that some people will fall away, some relationships will shift, and some environments will no longer fit who you are becoming. This is not loss, it is alignment. It is life making space for the version of you that is rising. The person you are destined to become requires discipline, and discipline requires devotion to yourself. Every day you choose to focus on your goals, your healing, your habits, your purpose. You are rewriting your story. You are teaching the world how to treat you by showing how seriously you treat your own growth. And this devotion builds a strength that no doubt or criticism can break. One day, your transformation will be so profound, so natural, so powerful that it will leave people speechless. Not because you wanted revenge, not because you wanted approval, but because you chose yourself. You chose growth over gossip, purpose over distraction, and evolution over fear. When you focus on yourself, you don't just shock people, you inspire them. When you begin to focus on yourself, you shift the entire direction of life because you finally stop pouring your energy and to the parts and erhanashi and deepest soul with your destiny, and do start hun element to guide your attention into pleasing people who were never immense. You stop your life because you come to understand that your growth is not born in noise or in validation or in applause, but in the quiet moments where you sit with your own truth and allow yourself to confront the things you have ignored for far too long. This kind of inner focus becomes a turning point in your life because it teaches you that everything you have been searching for outside already lies within you, waiting for a commitment. When you focus on yourself, you stop from progress, real for that kind does not feed a deeper for progress, and you begin to chade your spirit, and you begin to chade your spirit, find your attention and your commitment. After hours with you start to recognize that your thoughts shape your days, your habits shape your character, and your character shapes your future. You begin to treat your mind like a garden because you understand that every dream you hold is a seed that needs time and patience and daily care in order to grow into something powerful. You learn that discipline is not punishment, but an act of devotion to the person you want to become, and that discipline grows stronger when you focus instead of outward. As your attention shifts, you develop a new awareness of your energy. You begin to feel when something drains, when something distracts you, when something steals your peace. You start to realize that every moment you spent then thinking about what people think of you is a moment taken away from building your own life. So you choose differently. You choose to create space within yourself for healing, for self-respect, for intention. You choose to listen to your inner voice, the one you ignored for your years, while trying to fit into expectations that were never meant for you. That voice becomes louder and clearer, and it guides you toward decisions that support your growth instead of suppressing it. Slowly, this focus on yourself becomes a powerful shift in your identity. You start to see that you no longer need to shrink to make others comfortable. You no longer need to silence your dreams to avoid judgment. You no longer need to pretend to be less than you are just to be accepted. You rise into a new kind of truth, a truth that frees you. You begin to understand that the world around you changes when you change, and that your external life cannot transform until your internal life begins to evolve. Focusing on yourself also helps you understand that growth is not loud. Growth is quiet, steady, patient, consistent. Growth looks like choosing habits that strengthen you even when no one is watching. Growth looks like waking up early to work on your goals even when you feel tired. Growth looks like saying no to distractions that once tempted you. The growth looks like protecting your peace because you know that your peace is the foundation of everything you hope to build. Over time, you begin to feel something new within yourself. a strength you did not have before, a confidence that comes not from praise but from self-respect. You realize that you can trust yourself. You realize that you are capable of far more than you believed. You realize that your life is rising because you finally made the decision to rise within your own mind first. And that is the power of focusing on yourself. It turns your attention inward, where your real transformation begins once you start that inner journey. Nothing and no one can stop the person you are being. When you begin to focus yourself deeply, you realize that protecting your peace is not a luxury, but the future, a necessity for ease, for one's realize to build. You come to understand that peace is not something that magically appears in your life. It is something you must create through intention, discipline, and the courage to choose what supports your growth instead of what drains your energy. When you finally choose yourself, you start seeing how many things you allowed into your life that were never meant to stay. You begin to notice every distraction, every negative influence, every emotional weight that has been quietly pulling you away from your true path. And in that moment of awareness, you feel a shift inside you, a shift that tells you it is time to take ownership of your inner world. Protecting your peace requires you to look honestly at the people you allow into your space. Some individuals bring calm understanding and encouragement, while others bring stress, confusion, and doubt. When you focus on yourself, you stop ignoring the truth about these relationships. You begin to see who supports your growth and who benefits from your exhaustion. You start to understand that not everyone who stands beside you actually stands for you. And that realization shows you the importance of choosing wisely, because your peace is shaped by the company you keep. So you begin to let go of those who constantly take without giving. You begin to distance yourself from anything that dims your light. You allow yourself to release connections that no longer align with the person you are becoming. There is great power in learning to say no. No to expectations that suffocate your spirit. No to obligations that drain your strength. No to environments that keep you trapped in cycles of frustration and self-doubt. When you focus on yourself, you give yourself the permission to place your well-being above the opinions of others. You stop living for approval and start living for balance, clarity, and emotional stability. You understand that do not need to explain every decision, because your peace is worth more than validation from people who do not walk your journey. As you continue to honor your peace, you discover something else. You start to hear your own thoughts more clearly. You start to feel your intuition guiding you with a voice that becomes stronger each day. You begin to trust yourself more. You learn to recognize the difference between inner guidance and external noise. You make choices based on your values instead of pressure. You set boundaries that protect your time, your energy, and your heart. These boundaries become a powerful shield that keeps your inner world safe from unnecessary chaos. Over time, something beautiful happens. You begin to feel lighter. You begin to feel stronger. You begin to feel whole. Your days become calmer because you no longer allow every emotion of others to invade your spirit. That you begin to understand that peace is not passive. Peace is power. Peace is power. Peace is protection. Peace is a declaration that your soul matters, that your mental health matters, that your journey matters. You choose peace, you choose clarity, and clarity allows you to walk your path with confidence and purpose. With every step you take toward a more peaceful life, you step deeper into your true self. You learn that peace is not found in silence alone. Peace is found in choosing what aligns with your heart. Peace is found in refusing to tolerate what harms your growth. Peace is found in honoring your worth. And when you finally defend your peace with confidence, you begin to rise into a stronger, more grounded, more powerful version of yourself. When you focus on yourself, you begin to outgrow the version of you that kept shrinking to make others feel comfortable. Have you start to see how many times you held back your own potential because you were afraid of being judged or misunderstood? You realize how often you said yes when your heart was begging you to say no. You remember all the moments when you silenced your dreams just to fit into a space that was never meant to hold the fullness of who you are. And this realization becomes a turning point because it shows you that the life you want cannot be built on a foundation of fear or self-betrayal. It can only grow from honesty, courage, and the willingness to honor your own truth. As you begin this journey of focusing inward, you learn that growth requires you to be brutally honest with yourself. Honest about what you want, honest about what is hurting you, honest about what is no longer aligned with your future. You begin to feel a shift in your spirit as you release the old patterns that kept you small. You stop pretending to be fine when you are struggling. You stop carrying responsibilities that were never yours. You stop giving people access to your heart when they have not earned it. And with every step you take away from self-neglect, you step closer to your true identity. This process is not always easy because it forces you to confront parts of yourself that you avoided for years. The parts that feared rejection, the parts that needed approval to feel worthy, the parts that believed you had to stay quiet to be accepted. But when you focus on yourself, you begin to heal these wounds. You start to choose your voice over silence. You choose your needs over guilt. You choose your dreams over doubt. You learn that you are allowed to outgrow the roles you were handed. You are allowed to evolve beyond the expectations placed on you. You are allowed to become someone new, someone strong, stronger, someone wiser. Over time, you begin to understand that you do not need to apologize for wanting more out of your life. You do not need to apologize for having goals that make other people uncomfortable. You do not need to apologize for having standards for your peace, your time, and your relationships. As you grow, you begin to see the difference between people who support your evolution and people who only support your limitations. And this awareness becomes one of your greatest strengths because it helps you choose the environments that lift you instead of drain you. When you stop shrinking yourself, you make space for your real power to emerge. You begin to walk differently. You speak with clarity. You act with purpose. You make decisions based on who you are becoming, not who you used to be. You feel more aligned with your path because you are no longer abandoning your own needs to please others. You start to take up space with confidence, knowing that you deserve to exist fully and freely. And slowly, your entire life changes. Opportunities begin to show up because you are finally ready for them. People who resonate with your growth begin to enter your life because your energy is no longer tied to old cycles. You begin to attract experiences that match the strength you have gained. You feel more grounded in yourself, more connected to your purpose, more aware of your worth. Focusing on yourself helps you understand that you were never meant to remain the smaller version of who you once were. You were meant to rise. You were meant to expand. You were meant to live a life that reflects the fullness of your spirit. And when you choose to stop shrinking, you make room for your most powerful self to step forward and lead the warrior. You become truly powerful the moment you stop arguing with the limitations that other people place on your life, because you finally upload truth and not opinions, your destiny. Their davins on your lights, that they understand their peer opinion. You stop our powerful. You focus inward. You begin to see that real belief is not built on praise or approval or recognition. It is built on the quiet decision you make every single day to honor your own potential, even when no one else can see the vision you carry inside your heart. This inner focus becomes the foundation of a strength that no outside voice can shake, because you no longer measure your worth by how loudly others clap, but how consistently is yourself. When you choose to trust your own journey, you begin a new sense of life begin to wadding free. With new seat, you show up force of clarity. You stop giving energy to every doubt that is thrown at you. You stop shrinking under criticism that was never rooted in truth. You stop letting the fears of others become the limits of your own ambition. Instead, you turn your attention inward and you ask yourself what you truly want, who you truly are, and what kind of future you are willing to build. And with every honest answer, you rise a little higher within yourself. You begin to see that self-belief is not something you wait for. It is something you create through consistent action and unwavering commitment to your own growth. As this inner belief grows, you start to understand the importance of showing up for yourself even on the days when motivation feels distant and progress feels slow. You learn that success is not built on perfection, but on persistence. It is built on waking up and trying again. It is built on choosing discipline, even when you feel tired, choosing courage, even when you feel scared, choosing faith, even when the results are taking longer than you hoped. You prove to yourself through every small step that you also learn that the more you believe in yourself, the less you need the world to believe in you. You stop seeking validation from people who have never walked your path. You stop handing your power to opinions that were never meant to guide your future. You realize that most of the limits you once accepted were not your own, but reflections of the fears and insecurities of others. And when you finally release those limits, you begin to rise with a freedom you have never felt before. You step into your life with a sense of ownership because you now know that your destiny belongs only to you, or are capable of building a life that once felt impossible. And these moments of self-dedication become the fuel that strengthens your confidence. This inner transformation affects the way you move through the world. You carry yourself differently. You speak with intention. You act with purpose. You make decisions based on your values instead of external pressure. You begin to trust your own intuition because you have proven to yourself that you are capable of guiding your own path. And with this trust comes a deeper sense of peace, a peace that tells you that you no longer need to force anything. A peace that tells you your life will unfold exactly as it should as long as you keep honoring the truth within you. Over time, the world begins to notice your growth, not as you ask for attention, but because your confidence from a place of genuine because it has radiant inner strength. You become someone who is not shaken by doubt or fear or criticism because you are rooted in your own belief. You understand that the power you carry was never meant to be approved by others. It was meant to be discovered by you. And when you finally embrace that power, you step into a version of yourself that is unstoppable. When you begin to focus on yourself, you discover that growth often begins. Finally, you accept that not everyone is meant to walk beside you and understand your path, and not really is there. Your hide is the you have. Some begins the moment is unstoppable. You start realizing that life naturally shifts when you evolve because the people, situations, and environments that once felt familiar may no longer fit who you are becoming. At first, this may feel uncomfortable because you have spent so much of your life trying to maintain connections that were built on older versions of you. But when you begin to grow from the inside, you recognize that change is not something to fear, but something to honor, because it is a sign that your spirit is expanding beyond its old limits. As you grow more focused, you begin to see discipline not as something harsh, but as something sacred. You start to understand that your dreams cannot survive without structure and patience. You begin to see how every small, consistent action creates a ripple effect that shifts your entire reality. When you choose to wake up early, when you choose to follow through on your goals, when you choose to put in the work, even when you are tired, you are proving something powerful to yourself. You are showing your mind that you can be trusted. You are proving that you can rely on your own effort. You are proving that you no longer run from difficulty, but rise to meet it with strength and intention. This devotion to yourself builds a different kind of confidence. a confidence that does not depend on praise or validation, a confidence that is born from knowing that you honor your own word. You start to see that self-trust is the foundation of a powerful life, because when you trust yourself, you stop hesitating. You stop doubting every decision. You stop questioning your path. And instead, you begin to move with clarity and purpose because you have built the discipline that supports your vision. We have, that no matter how long the journey, maybe you are capable of walking it step by step. The more disciplined you become, the more your life begins to change. You start creating habits that strengthen your mind, your body, and your spirit. You begin to protect your time because you know that every minute wasted is a minute taken from your future. You begin to choose environments that support your progress instead of inviting distractions that pull you backward. You start to say no to things that weaken your focus. You start to say yes to the actions that build your strength. Every choice becomes a reflection of the person you are becoming. Discipline also helps you stop seeking shortcuts. You understand that true growth cannot be rushed. It requires patience. It requires showing up even when you do not see results yet. It requires trusting the process even when the path feels slow. This kind of trust shapes you into someone who does not quit at the first sign of discomfort. You become someone who endures, who learns, who adapts, who keeps going no matter what stands in the way. You begin to recognize that every challenge holds a lesson and every setback holds an opportunity to rise in a new way. Over time, the world begins to feel different because you are different. You carry yourself with more strength because you know what you have overcome. You walk with more confidence because you see the results of your own consistency. You speak with more intention because you understand the value of your energy. You make decisions that align with your highest self because you finally see your worth without hesitation. You begin to feel proud of the person you are becoming because you know how much discipline it took to grow into this version of yourself. And in this new season of your life, you realize something powerful. Discipline is not about perfection. It is about commitment. It is about showing up again and again, even when progress feels slow. It is about choosing your future over your excuses. When you commit to that kind of devotion, your life begins to rise in ways that once felt impossible. When you focus self long enough, you begin transformation happens, not in the moments when life feels that force you discover you're tested, stressy, but you feel tested, stretch, and challenge basket stretch. You begin to understand that if the read on yourself impossible, you realize that adversity is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are evolving. Every difficulty, every setback, and every moment of uncertainty becomes a doorway that pushes you deeper into your own resilience. You learn that life is not trying to break you. Life is trying to shape you into the version of yourself that can hold the success, the peace, and the greatness you have been asking for. As you grow more focused, you begin to see challenges differently. Instead of viewing them as obstacles, you start to see them as lessons. You recognize that each hurdle carries wisdom that you would never gain from comfort. You understand that pain teaches you where you need healing. Doubt teaches you where you need belief. Fear teaches you where you need courage. And through this understanding, you become more patient with the process of your life. You stop demanding instant results, and instead you begin to honor the timing of your journey. You see that everything you are experiencing has a purpose even when that purpose is not immediately clear. When you start responding to challenges from a place of strength instead of panic, you notice something powerful within yourself. You begin to rise. You rise because you no longer let fear dictate your decisions. You rise because you trust your ability to handle whatever comes your way. You rise because you have learned to hold yourself steady even when the world around you feels uncertain. And with every rise, you grow more confident, more grounded, and more aligned with your higher self. This kind of inner strength does not appear overnight. It is built through the quiet choices you make every day. The choice to keep going when giving up would be easier. The choice to believe in yourself even when no one else does. The choice to stay focused on your path even when distractions appear. These choices shape your character. They sharpen your mindset. They build a foundation within you that cannot be shaken by gossip, criticism, jealousy, or doubt from others. You become someone who is deeply rooted in their purpose. As this happens, you start to notice that the challenges that once controlled you no longer have power over you. What once made you break now makes you stronger. What once made you doubt now makes you determined. What once made you afraid now makes you bold. You learn to use every hardship as fuel for your growth. You learn to rise not just despite the storm, but because of the storm. And through this rise, you begin to develop a quiet, unshakable confidence that does not need to be announced because it radiates through your actions. The world begins to notice this change. People see your strength even when you do not speak about it. They see your resilience in the way you keep moving forward. They see your courage in the way you refuse to settle. They see your transformation in the way you carry yourself with dignity and purpose. You become a person whose presence speaks louder than words. A person who inspires others simply by being authentic, persistent, and true to their own path. As you continue to rise, you begin to see the truth about certain relationships. You realize that some own individuals were only aligned with the smaller version of you, the one who doubted herself, the one who accepted less, the one who lived through survival instead of vision. These people may resist your growth because your transformation reflects the choices they are afraid to make for themselves. But when you focus on your own evolution, you stop shrinking to make them comfortable. You stop dimming your light so they do not feel overwhelmed. You stop carrying the weight of their expectations. You understand that and go is not betrayal. It is alignment. It is acknowledging that your journey requires a different circle, a different environment, a different level of energy. In this phase of growth, you become more aware of the environments you allow yourself to enter. You start to recognize the spaces that drain your spirit versus the spaces that feed your purpose. You realize that some rooms require you to stay small just to fit in, while other rooms allow you to expand and breathe freely. Focusing on yourself teaches you to choose the rooms that support your rising. You learn that the people who are meant for you will celebrate your evolution instead of fearing it. They will push you forward instead of holding you back. They will make space for your growth instead of feeling threatened by it. Letting go of what no longer serves you is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of maturity. It means you have reached a point where you no longer need chaos to feel connected, and you no longer need guilt to feel loyal. You begin to release old habits that kept you tied to cycles of hurt. You release expectations that were never aligned with your future. You release the version of yourself that settled for less because she did not yet know her worth. And each time you release something that no longer matches your direction, you create space for something better to enter your life. As this space opens within you, a new kind of peace begins to rise. You start feeling lighter because you are no longer carrying the emotional weight of trying to keep everyone happy. You start feeling stronger because you finally give yourself permission to prioritize your own needs. You start feeling more confident because you trust that what is meant for you will remain and what is not meant for you will naturally fall away. You learn that growth is not about forcing anything or anyone to stay. Growth is about becoming so aligned with your purpose that everything else adjusts around you. With time, you begin to appreciate the beauty of distance. You see that stepping away from certain environments allows you to hear your own voice more clearly. You feel your intuition guiding you toward better choices. You feel your energy rising because you are no longer surrounded by people who drain your spirit. And in this freedom, you begin to thrive in ways you never imagined. You begin to see that your journey is not defined by who stays, but by who you become. And when you honor your evolution, you rise into a stronger, wiser, and more powerful version. When you focus on yourself, you begin to understand that the person you are destined to come require discipline that can only come level of deep self-discipline to come as deep self-devotion. Discipline is not a punishment or a burden. It is an act of love toward your future self. It is the promise you make to the version of you who is waiting on the other side of your effort and consistency. When you choose discipline, you are choosing growth over momentary comfort, and that choice shapes everything about the direction your life begins to take. You realize that every day you wake up, you are given a fresh chance to rewrite your habits, your mindset, and your entire identity through the actions you commit to. The journey of focusing on yourself is not an act of selfishness, it is an act of awakening. It is the moment you realize that you want the peace you seek and the success you dream about will never from promulgating to situations again and again, even in beginning a codicans I'll come where misunderstood even when will come from the courage to shrinking expectations, guys, to pull your fit and the life you want, the peace you seek and the success you dream about, and in the event the peace your size is that we have. You begin honoring your own growth, you for applause, and start living for post-explaining your decisions and start walking in the truth of who you are. You stop building a life that no wonders to no islands, and you're powering the story of future. Who you are every time you choose to, and no one can that story in the story, takes your values, that permission, and you start waiting for permissions and start watering your youth. The moment you turn inward and commit to your own evolution, everything around you slowly begins to shift. The noise quiets the distractions, fall away, the comparisons lose their power, and your confidence rises from every small promise you keep to yourself. You begin to understand that you were never meant to be defined by what others think. You were meant to be defined by the strength, resilience, and vision that live inside you. As a walk further on this path, something extraordinary happens. People begin to switch. They're going to see the glow this path, to see the transformation, the clarity, the have determination, the peace, the confidence is, and they start to realize that focusing on yourself was not isolation, it was not isolation, it was preparation for the life. You were meant to step into a life shaped not by pressure, but by intention, not fear, but by self-belief, not by external validation, but by inner truth. Is l'enceinte illness is your response to your happy and healing. Your cess is responsibility, can walk responsibility. No one can work for you once you decide. No one can do the work for you. Once you decide that you will rise, it becomes your begins, that you will grow your protected universe, that you will protect your bees and begins to align your piece of that Laura's and people imagine the pieces that appear by the look of your shift will die that you work at kitchens to find living to the future imagine but below things that the power that you're subtracting your step both this path for daily quiet in days distract you realize probable upon return self feel you will think else for response be finally we have so it's be your final mind of your growth.